Everybody, welcome back. My name is YUMBL, and today I'm very excited to announce we are at the beginning of a new build. That's right, we're starting a new city here on YouTube. This is going to be a European city, and I'm calling it Resfeber. You can look up the meaning of that word if you want, but the city of Resfeber is built on a river, kind of a river valley, with a highway running through it, but I want to keep the city as far away from the highway as I can. So we're going to focus on a strong arterial system for this one. Now, you might be wondering, YUMBL, what do you know about European cities? Are you European? You may be wondering, to which I must answer, no. But have I ever been to Europe? You might be wondering. Also, no. But have you ever built a European city that you liked? A third resounding no. I am very much building this through the lens of my American experience and what I know of Europe, what I've studied, what I've observed in pictures and media and Google Maps and the research I've done. So this is kind of going to be a caricature of a European city in a sense, but I would say the same thing about my US builds. I would say that the last city that I built, Rolling Waters, was very much a kind of a caricature of a US city as well, so this will be true to that. I think it's going to come out great though, and I'm very excited. Let me show you what we've got so far. I've actually got a collection started for this build, so feel free to check in the description if you want to see the collection of assets and the map used, things like that. But this is the map. We've got this river with 3 turns, essentially, and I've chosen the first turn on what I will call probably the western side of the map to be our starting area. And that includes this interchange. I decided to go with a trumpet interchange. I replaced the original trumpet with a trumpet of my own design, and this arterial road is coming in, and this will be the initial area. I'd like to have kind of an old town section on the riverfront, as an ancient city might have been, or if it started in the medieval age, perhaps they needed to be close to water, but then the city may have expanded back this way over time. So I'm going to have a fairly modern arterial system with a kind of messy medieval local road system, at least at the riverfront. And the build is also going to be very train focused. So we've got these beautiful railway pack archways leading to what will be a train station here that will ultimately connect to another train station in this part of the map, which I'm very excited to explore. But we're going to start with this area. I've already developed an arterial here, so let's see how this goes. I'm probably going to use, at least to start, this is subject to change, but I'm going to use this Dutch road initially. And this build isn't really based on any one place in particular. It's not, you know, it's not going to be that specific, but I've got all these kind of general European assets, whatever that means, you know. I'd like to have roundabouts. I'm usually not that keen on roundabouts in my cities, but at least for this build, I'm going to do some roundabouts rather than my general heavy reliance on traffic lights. My last build was very American influenced, and a lot of traffic lights were going on. So for this one, I'm going to be doing these turbo roundabouts, or what they're called. They're going to look fairly normal, I think, but I'm going to be using this asset called turbo roundabout, and I'll show you how that works today. 2-lane turbo roundabout should do it. And this is going to have 3 exits. I'm going to start with a 5x5 by 5 by 5. I have a video about roundabouts if you want to learn more about how to do this. I don't tend to use Roundabout Builder. A lot of people ask me why. They're like, why don't you use Roundabout Builder? And it's because I want to have control over it, and it might just be nonsensical. It's probably nonsensical, but it's just me being me. And we're going to do, I started in the wrong spot, 5x5 all the way around. And this will kind of be our first junction in the city, other than this medieval. We're going to do something creative with this one. I'm going to make it an impenetrable barrier in the middle. I'll show you how to do that today as well. But initially, we'll have this roundabout, and I want it to be maybe, let's see, I think 135. Yeah, 135 looks good. So I'm going to do 135 degrees on this arterial road, and 135 over here as well, the inverse, which will make a 90. So we're essentially splitting this road. This road isn't going to continue straight in because that would hit the train station. I don't want it to go directly to the train station. I want to have the train station in the middle of it all. That looks pretty good to me. If you use Roundabout Builder, it'll make this part a little bit easier, if I'm being honest, but for some reason I still prefer this Electrix Road Tool if I'm doing some strange angle. You can build the roundabout normally and then use Electrix Road Tools to kind of finalize it. And that is our general shape. Beautiful. Looking good. And of course I'm going to be using this 4-lane arterial as well. Choosing the one with the grass median. This road may change. In fact, all of the roads are kind of subject to change in some sense, but I know about the size that I'm going for. That's a good start. Then this one, same sort of deal. Let's hope I don't have regrets about not bracing the roundabout. Okay, good. The roundabout held up. All of our nodes were correct. The turbo roundabout, the way that it really works, I'll mark it up later and show you what it can look like. But you end up picking your lane early, and if there's 2 lanes going into it and there's 2 exits, whatever lane you enter in will determine the place that you exit. And I think that's pretty cool. So if you're in the right lane, you'll exit over here. If you're in the left lane, the way I set it up will force you, and the markings will show this, it forces you to change lanes here and exit here. So you really can't go all the way around and come back out the other side to avoid inefficiencies. But we'll have a strong local network on either side, so turning around shouldn't really be a problem. Now, continuing on, as I said, I have a vague idea of where this is going. But we're in the sketching it out phase, I'd call it. This road will probably continue. I've got a clever way that I think I'm going to be able to get this under the train tracks without doing an at-grade crossing, so stay tuned for that. But I think what we'll do is perhaps there's another roundabout somewhere in this area that will allow traffic to enter maybe like here, and then it'll come down into this section of the city, intersecting with this road. Nice. Nice. All good things. I don't like the way that the node looked like on that, so I'm going to redraw it real quick. Beautiful. So now we're going to come down kind of into the center of this waterfront area, which is supposed to be our older part of town. I'll just go to there. It's arbitrary right now, but we'll just go down to there. That looks pretty good. And maybe this roundabout also lets out going north as well, which would make a nice train station connection. Not sure just yet, but let's add another, maybe smaller roundabout this time. Using our 2-lane turbo roundabout once again. The last one was a 5x5. This one can probably be a 4x4, as it'll be something of a lesser roundabout. 4x4x4 by 4 by 4. Lovely. So there'll kind of be a hierarchy of roundabouts. And of course, we're going to decorate these up all nicely. But the city's going to be very train focused. I'm very excited for the train element most of all, I think. And the messy roads, those messy European roads I was talking about. Can't wait to see how that looks. Let's see. So this will come over here. I think we'll kind of do the same sort of thing. I'm liking that node right there. And that splits this entire area in 2, just like this one did. So I'm a fan. And maybe we'll do another 4x4 roundabout. The arterials, you could argue that they're entirely too clean, and you'd be correct. They're entirely too clean. Because one, stylistically, that's how my brain operates. If it's too messy at the arterial level, I just feel it's messy. It's a habit I have to break. I have to be used to getting messier and being okay with it. But I'm excited to have a local road network that looks distinctly European, if you know what I mean. That looks distinctly kind of off the wall and kind of planned by pedestrians for pedestrians, that sort of thing. I'd also like to do some bikeability. I'm not sure where that fits in with these roundabouts just yet, but I'd like to have bikeability in the city as well. So train, tram, bikeability, walkability, all important things. Really quickly, I'd like to show you how I kind of doctor up a roundabout for visual and functional applications. I'm going to use Node Controller, a mod from the Steam Workshop, to turn off all of the markings. So those crosswalks have visually disappeared. And I also want to use it to crank this up probably to like, let's make up a number, maybe 20, maybe even more than that. 24, let's do 22, a nice 22. This is our first roundabout. So I'm going to crank it up to 22 meters on all sides, 22 meters of offset. And that'll make it really easy for traffic to go in and out of the roundabout. Because otherwise, I don't really want them making 90-degree turns. I want them easing out of the roundabout and easing around the whole thing. Like in real life, you know, I want smoother edges. Maybe 20, actually. Let's turn it down to 20. Yeah. Beautiful. And then with intersection marking tool, it's really, really easy to do something like this. Remember, I used the term turbo roundabout. Specifically, let's see. Specifically what that means is that you pick your lane, and as once you've picked your lane, you're locked in for the duration, for the term of being in the roundabout. And the markings will always look something like this, in my opinion. You know, this is an opinion piece. But that's a good way to do the markings. And then you have to go through and trim the markings at all these angles, right? So this one, I can stop it here. I have a video about intersection marking tool if you need more specific instruction. This one, I'd like to stop here. This one can stop there. Now this curvy one here, should give me the curvy one last, that needs to stop much earlier. And then we'll add a rule to complete the shape that we started. And there we go, that's the general idea. Hold Alt to make a filler. Easy as pie. And for this one, I'm going to do pavement. I want it to be that cobblestone pattern that I've picked out on my map theme. And the elevation can be nothing. You know, I'll put it down to 0.1 elevation. And this one, I'm going to do a marking as well. This shape will force the vehicles to change lanes. And it's just going to be a solid. So as you're going around... Oh, I haven't even set it up with Traffic Manager yet. I can copy that to all sides, that marking. But if you go to Priority Signs... Hold Shift, hold Control, click. Automatically, this is all set up. The yields are in place. The arrows are in place. Everything is good. The one thing that I like to do for a turbo roundabout, though, is ensure that traffic changes lanes every time. I do not want them to have the option to go straight through and ignore this marking. I want them to change lanes. Emergency vehicles will still, as is just the nature of City Skylines, emergency vehicles will... disregard that at times. I can't help that necessarily, but I also don't really mind it if it's more efficient for them. But vehicles, other vehicles, are going to have to wait. And now simply copying this, copy it, and then paste it onto all the other angles. So I started tinkering around with this right roundabout, and I kind of had an epiphany. I've got this really cool bike road that's asymmetrical, so I could have a smaller road. So to further visualize the road hierarchy, I want to use the big 4-lane road as the main arterial, yes, but I want these little ones intersecting it, these little bikeable ones. I've also got this bikeable turbo roundabout deal, and it happens to be 3 lanes, which is perfect for 4 exits on a roundabout. Oh yeah, I decided to put a 4th spoke in there. I'll show you how I did it. Here's how this works. So I'm going to replace this one, this turbo roundabout here, with a bikeable turbo roundabout. That's great. I'm going to replace the road coming off of it with this bikeable 3-lane road. It's asymmetrical, so when you turn it backwards, here's the real beauty of this thing, is when you turn it the other way, it actually visually branches out, so you can see that. And of course you can use node controller on that to spread it out further if you want that transition to be a bit smoother. That's not a problem. But I want people to be biking in this city. I don't want automobiles to be the main mode of transportation, is the point. I really don't. I'd prefer people bike in this European city. And take the train. I want them to take their bike to the train. And yeah, if they need to take a car, then so be it, but I'll give them a good road network, but I want to give them every reason in the world to not use that good road network. I think, in my opinion, that's what City Skylines really is building a beautiful road network, because you kind of need roads to get your services to buildings, and the game is very road-centric at the end of the day, in my opinion. But give them every reason not to use that road. So supply your Sims with great transit, great walkability, great bikeability. Another thing that I haven't even talked about yet is that I would love to have this, I would love to have the city have plazas, have some really nice plazas where pedestrians can gather and, you know, some real natural human spaces where people can hang out together. I think that would be beautiful. I was walking through a mall the other day and looking around and being like, wow, this was... I looked up the history of shopping malls, and initially the idea was really, really cool. It was like, oh, it was supposed to be like this beautiful plaza where people could hang out and do all kinds of cool things. But it kind of, in the US at least, it kind of turned into something else. Kind of turned into a room. So this is very close on this side, so there's not much I can do. The node is right next to this node. That may cause problems later. Time will tell. You know, stay tuned. We'll see what happens. I'm going to take the red side and actually reduce it. Well, that's as good as it gets, I suppose. We'll see if that comes back to bite me later. Stay tuned for that one. But we're going to go for 15 meters on these smaller ones. A 15-meter spacing should look pretty nice, I think. This one, can we get 15 out of it? That'll be fine. Great, so that's all node controlled up. Let me figure out how the markings are going to go on these. I'm curious to see that as well. But I just wanted to clue you into the new bike lane scheme that I'm coming up with. Before moving on, I just want to point out that in City Skylines, there are some moments where you'll look back at what you just did and say, wow, that took a disproportionate amount of work and effort. My God, bike roundabout with intersection marking tool? That took a disproportionate amount of effort for the result. There it is. It looks good. It's understandable. The only goal here was to make it clear that these are where the bike lanes are. There are no bike lanes on these big arterial roads, but the small roads totally have bike lanes, and I wanted to show that that connection exists. And it looks pretty good. It's probably not perfect, but that took like an hour. I'm going to be real honest with you. That took a very large amount of time. But now that I've got it, it's easy enough. It'll be easy enough to copy that to other areas as necessary. And I think it looks pretty good. I just wanted to highlight that real quick because holy cow, this is one of those moments. Something I'd like to do now, just to ensure that I remember when the time comes, this road is impermeable. Or excuse me, this is, you know, there's a solid median there that I've added using intersection marking tool, and I've disabled the left turns using traffic manager. I just want to remind myself later, this is going to come in handy, even if we don't do the medieval roads today, I want to make an underpass here. Does that look centered? Perfectly centered, nice. I want to make a space here, and even without anarchy this would work. I left myself enough space to unify these two sides of town. So this is all supposed to be the oldest part of town, near the river, and things got newer as they went back. That's the theory that I'm going with for now. We'll see if that changes. But I want to have a way for them to cross the road without having to cross the road, so I figured that would be a really good way to do it. And that affords us the opportunity to kind of establish our waterfront. So maybe this is kind of where the waterfront is. It's up to a decision I'm going to have to make later, probably, but I may end up keying the shore, meaning using a river wall, you know, using a key to make that happen. But for now, I want to establish where the pedestrians will stop, or where the cars will stop, or whatever the case may be. That looks really nice. I like that a lot. This will probably become a curve, or maybe it won't become a curve. Who knows? But at least now we know that. That's good information. And on the other side, I'm going to establish something similar, where this kind of follows the coast and then eventually hits this here. Let's see how far this can go before it kind of starts getting wet. I'll extend it slightly too far and we'll back it off as necessary. The way I'm switching between roads so quickly is I'm using Picker. It's a mod by Cuboid, good friend of the channel, great modder. Let's see. So I'm going to make some sort of angled road here, following the coast, and following the coast again, similar to the other side. Follow the coast. And then 90 degrees off of this road, same sort of thing. About how far was this one from the actual coast? Maybe 14 units or so. Doesn't need to be exactly the same. This one will probably be a little less. So starting there. Something like that. I don't want it to be too far from the coast, but I don't want it to be too close either. Because we might want buildings there, you know? 90 degrees, please. Beautiful. So that starts establishing our what will become our medieval waterfront, and this road will probably continue on upwards and onwards, but that at least gets this mess visualized, because this will be kind of an entanglement of roads as I foresee it. It's probably going to be a lot of strange angles, and a lot of buildings fit in ways that they shouldn't, because that's kind of how old cities end up. And things will get more organized as we go up this way. Maybe more gridded or something like that. I'm not even sure. This is all very off the cuff. I'm as excited as you are to see how it goes. I think my next move is to continue these roads that are on this initial... Don't forget, this is our highway connection, so this is still the main drag coming in. But I'd like to establish this network a little further. That looks nice. I'll probably end up deleting the trees because there's going to be a dense bit of building in here, but let's see what happens if this goes all the way back. What does that do for us? I'm going to have to see if I end up liking this shape here, because it's a bit simple. I like this side that it has the coastline to kind of give it some complexity, but this looks a little bit simple to me. So what if we... Let's see what this looks like if we make a diagonal road that intersects this, and then maybe we'll have some sort of feature in the center. Still perpendicular to the shoreline, which I like. Okay. That's not bad. Kind of makes a diamond thing here, and a bit of a funny intersection here. You can always fix these real easy with with node controller if you want to. If you hit square edges or make ends straight, the texture is a bit stretched there, but I could still be okay with that. Now let's see, how does this break down? How exactly is this going to break? Actually, you know what? Let's establish like a landmark of some sort. If I had a landmark to go off of, then I'd be able to design something specific for this area. I think that's a good way to go. And bada boom, there's a church. So now I've got something to build off of. Now I've got an initial structure with which to kind of form this area. So I've moved it away from the road. This building will require road access because it is a functional, unique building. I don't know that I'll convert it to anything other than a unique building, which is essentially a park. But what I'm going to end up doing... Now, this part's subject to change, as all things kind of are. But I'd like to establish a pedestrian street. And for now, I'm going to go with this one. It's called Swanky Street by Mr. Miyagi. Because it connects pretty well to this situation, but that's subject to change. But the point is, we're going to ban traffic on this thing. So maybe the answer is to... I'm going to continue this up a little bit. We're going to pick a spot for the church using Move It. Now I'm holding Alt, so it should snap automatically. And what I've found, my theory with this anyway, is that historically the church would end up being a meeting place for people, of course, as it still is. But it would also be a place of, potentially, of commerce out front and things like that. Potentially, you know. There might be a square, is what I'm saying. A square, a space in front of the building where people hang out, you know. So let's imagine that this is a pedestrian system here. So I don't want this to be for normal traffic to cut through or anything. This is supposed to be our first pedestrian bit of road, essentially, right? So people will be able to bike in on the bike lanes, and then boom, they're right here, and they're able to visit this entire area, and the church is going to be the center of this section. That looks pretty good. And then maybe this goes 90 degrees and kind of splits down here. I'm just making this up. There's no road plan to my road plan. I'm just, as I go, I'm just kind of making decisions. making connections and things. Cool. So now we've got a nice spot in front of the church. I might even move it center to this entire square. Now keep in mind, a lot of these are real assets from real places. The church happens to be German, I believe. Yep, it's a German church. That doesn't mean I'm going to use a German fountain, just to set the tone for this whole operation here. Doesn't mean that I'm going to make an entire perfect, you know. It'll all be European in appearance, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be like historically accurate at all. Not that any of my cities ever have been. Let's see. Maybe it's a statue. Looking for something kind of big. None of them are that big. They're all realistically sized, which is causing me a problem. I want something big to go right in the middle, and I don't think that exists. Let's see. It can be a prop. I don't mind if it's a prop. It doesn't have to be a real thing that people visit. There we go. Something with angels. This is a Paris. Okay. It's a cemetery, but that's besides the point. I can find the center of this and we can make a proper pedestrian area. Let me put some work in here, just a moment. So I extended the road by 1 unit, so now there's a true center to the church. And what I want to do is approximate it with this guy, but then I'm going to take move it. Are you ready? The mod move it, crucial. Rotate it center. I'm going to rotate it so it's the same as the building, but I think I want it actually facing the building. This may change. Initially I was thinking facing away, but I think facing towards is cooler for the visitors, you know, to come out and you're getting looked at. And what I'm going to do also with move it is center this in the middle of this area. So what I've done is I've selected 3 points. One, the corner of the road here, the statue, and the opposing corner. And I believe if I do line up, now it is perfectly centered, just as the church is, which I think is beautiful. With a little bit of path work and maybe some cobblestone and whatnot, I think we've got a really good plaza on our hands here. We've got that as a centerpiece, so now we can work out from there and see what happens. So as I started prepping to decorate this area, I realized I put another road down here and I noticed all these cool angles that are going on, and I said, ooh, I wonder if I have the right buildings. And I do. I'm gonna have to go and maybe subscribe to even more angled buildings, but this is an 135 degree angle. This one is a 45. I've got a 45, so just to remind myself of what I'm doing here, I want to leave some markers, and there's going to be a lot of different styles in this city. These just happen to fit perfectly. All right, so far so good. I'm liking that all these paths converge and people get to look at the statue, and that's all pretty cool. I turned it around and faced it towards the road. I thought that would make for a nicer picture for myself. And I also opted to downgrade these roads or upgrade them to this brick network because I thought it made a bit more sense. We'll see. The roads are all subject to change, but I'd like to go around and take this hedge network and see how quickly I can kind of not detail per se. I suppose it's detailing in a sense. But I want to see if this area, if I can strengthen the geometry by kind of adding some repetition to it, and then we'll add some trees and whatnot, make it look pretty, and have this kind of be our first landmark in the medieval part of the city. So now I'm just taking a moment to line the paths with some bushes, and I did the exterior with some short trees. The goal here is to not have anything so high that the statue or the church are obstructed from street view, because I think that that's a big bump to property value. I think that that's the city wants people to be able to see it, and if you cover it in trees, they're not going to be able to see it. Those paying tourists, as it were. But I'm using what's called a prop line tool to get this done. If you've got a couple mods, you might know this one, but I recommend it strongly. It makes this type of thing very, very easy, very even. And I'd like to add a splash of color. Maybe these things will end up being gardens. I'm not totally sure, but I just wanted to introduce you to prop line tool in the way that I use it to make areas of your city a little bit nicer. And a lot of you might be wondering why I'm putting in so much effort on this one spot so early in the city. We don't even have anyone moved in yet, is the fact. And you would be right in that assertion. The way I see it, I have to ask myself, what makes a city worth continuing once I've started? And for me, the answer to that question is how proud am I of the work I've already done? So it helps me to stick to to make me want to stick to a city. It helps me a lot if I start with an area that makes me really happy. So I think it's okay to take, 20, 30 minutes right at the beginning, once you've got your road network set up a little bit, and start something important. Start a centerpiece. Start an area where you're going to want people to hang out, and do something that makes you happy, and do something that makes the area elevated, and that'll make you want to stick to the map, and that'll, for me at least, it really makes me want to continue, because it's like, oh, I put all that work in on that spot. If it's not good enough, then by all means start over, but this is just my way of holding myself accountable and making sure that my stuff is as nice as I need it to be for my own standards. So I actually just left the game to get some flowers to fill in these flower beds, because I was really disappointed with the ones that I already had, and that's okay. Just shows dedication, Sometimes you gotta quit the game and reload it. Never try to add stuff while the game is running from the Steam Workshop. That's my sincere recommendation. You're gonna cause problems. Bad things will happen. But the good news with this situation here is I think I'll be able to fill these areas in. And here's my technique. I don't really use prop line tool on areas that I want to look filled in, because they can be a little bit more random and still look good. I think what I'll be able to do is take what we've got in these two plots, and I've picked the two shapes that make up this entire area, so I'm going to end up copying the shapes. Check this out. Trees. Let's take this little triangle here. Oops. All of this. And all of this, and none of that. But now I should be able to duplicate this using Move It. And then let's see. It'll definitely work over here. If you hold Alt and turn it, it'll turn it evenly. Now I just gotta line it up in a way that looks nice. There might be some sticking out the sides. I don't really care, to be honest. I don't really mind. And I'm gonna plop another one. So here's one that I never bothered to understand, the mirror function of Move It. So here's what you actually do. Select the area that you want to mirror, and if I've done this correctly, we'll be able to hit Mirror Objects and then click on a network, and it'll automatically mirror it. That's so amazing. If you do something all geometric, the way that I've done this, you can do that across the plane over and over, and it'll just keep working, just like I did there. But that's all it is. Select the objects that you want to mirror, hit the mirror button in Move It right there, and then click on a network to define the mirror plane. It's so simple. That's insane. I'm going to finish filling these in, and then we'll see what's behind the church. So I just started experimenting with the paths at the middle here, and I realized that this could be on another level from where it is. And it's really easy. I'm using snapping to do all of this, so that's why it's so perfectly geometrical. But what I realized was if you use precision engineering, you can get perfect 45-degree angles here. And then delete the centerpieces. Initially I had like a roundabout thing, and I really didn't like it. But look at that. That's amazing. So now we've got levels. We've got layers where you can go right up to the statue if you want to. You can get your photo op in the center ring. And there's also an outer loop for people that are just passing through, people that are just trying to get where they're going. They don't necessarily have to go to the middle if that's where the people are. But I thought that was beautiful. I'm going to fill this in with flowers, the same kind of way that I did over here, and that'll probably do it for the episode. Just a moment. That is one heck of a start, in my opinion. I'm not typically one to call myself a detailer, but I'm very happy with how this looks. That's more than enough to anchor me to this city for the foreseeable future, for sure. You could argue I didn't get a ton done, but I think that that's a lot for a first day, for me at least. That's quite a bit. Especially when we're not going through with a highway. I'm really trying to limit that. We did a bunch of markings there. We've got our old area established, a few lines at least. I'm very happy with this so far. I think that's beautiful. I'm looking forward to see how this city develops. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. Feel free to follow me on Twitter. Feel free to join the Discord. Feel free to check me out on Twitch, whatever you want. Guys, thanks for checking out Resfeber. I'm really looking forward to how this city is going to work out, and I will see you in the next episode.